Say the Semantics, episode 313. It is May 5th, 2025. My name is Myro. This is the podcast where I ramble on for a bit about some shit. Recording this on a Monday afternoon/evening. We had another big weekend of NBA hoops. The second round started yesterday before the Game 7 of the Warriors Rockets, which was a little weird, but whatever. I guess I don't know. I didn't quite understand that decision by the NBA, because it just like chronologically, or just in terms of the the structure of things, it's like whatever. It's not that big of a deal. Anyways, so Game 7. I probably didn't even mention or talk about Game 6, I believe, this weekend. Just kind of like a brief recap, since we're already here going into the second round. Warriors lost Game 6, which felt very much like the end of things. When it's not, it's always like this, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, this is the end of it. This is the last breath of this team, of this rendition of this team. And it's never the case, man. It's never the case when you have Steph Curry. That's just is never. It's never how things go. It's easy to kind of, be a little down, for sure. Like, I think there is always this sense of, blowing a 3-1 lead that just kind of hovers over the team's head, just historically, obviously. But just considering the circumstances, the team that they were playing against, I don't know. It would have been a little anticlimactic, to say the least, about getting knocked out by the Rockets. You know what I mean? They have a good team. They were the number 2 seed in a crowded West. I think they were one of the teams that were kind of able to take advantage of just the muck of the middle of the Western Conference, and kind of sort of go above those other teams. But including a lot of other people that are far more knowledgeable about the game, saw the limitations of this Rockets team, right? Things that I've been talking about leading up into the playoffs, right? Like, it just the inexperience, the inability to get into cohesive offensive sets, no real reliable offensive player, offensive threat. And we saw that with Jalen Green, which was it's so funny. Like, going back to game, I think 2, one of the announcers, I think it was Brian Anderson for TNT, was like, Jalen Green, Houston's superstar. I'm like, come on, dude. Come on, man. We can't label him that when he hasn't done anything yet. You know what I mean? It's like, it is, you cannot call someone just a superstar just on a whim like that. You know what I mean? We got to be careful about the words we use. Anyways, I thought that was funny. He had a horrible series. Outside of game 2, he had a terrible series, and it seems like his future with the Rockets feel pretty murky, as it should be. He's just far too inconsistent. Oh yeah, Game 7, Warriors won. They seized control of the game in the fourth quarter. Buddy Hield had the game of his life, his career, going off. This is going to be known as Game 7, Buddy, as a part of Warriors lore moving forward. And it was Steph did not have a good game until the second half when he started to kind of get his shots off. He started driving to the rim instead of, taking, I guess maybe some more ill-advised shots, which in his case are, you might even, in his case, they might not be considered ill-advised, but still maybe not the best use of your shot selection there. Second half, he started to drive and then, started to kind of get going. And towards the end of the game, when they pushed the lead to like 20 or so, he had some moments in setting up Buddy and getting up some shots himself. So that really, sealed the deal at the end of the game. And it felt very, even when they were up like 10 or so, the Houston's like just offense was so stagnant. It felt like the only way for them to really get back into this game would have to be defensive stops leading on to offensive breaks, right? But that just didn't really happen. Amen Thompson also got, I think that there was an injury with his hamstring or something like that that affected him, and that kind of took him out for a good chunk of that fourth quarter and second half. So that was a huge, them kind of losing him. He did play a little bit later towards the end of the game, but it just didn't really. It didn't seem like he was the same. He was great. He was awesome. He's an incredible athlete, and he was probably their best player, I think, last night. But yeah, outside of that, like the issues that I think that you could see through the lens of a 50+ win team, second seeded team in the Western Conference, through the veneer of that, you could see what this team lacked, right? This team, it worked in the regular season, by which they, essentially kind of worked as a committee as opposed to having a go-to scorer, star, which was, I guess, supposed to be Jalen Green, but he just, he very much shrunk from the moment. And I think that is something that the Rockets are probably going to look at and want to try to, find a suitable replacement for him, or some other potential deal out there. I keep hearing from just like pundits and, just journalists and stuff like that Houston, with their assets, have the best package, overall package available, I guess, outside of Oklahoma City, to get Giannis. But just looking at their team, I don't know what that's gonna look like. You know what I mean? And what are the pieces that Houston is gonna want to give up for that? You know what I mean? I don't, it's not something that I've looked, super deep into, but it is like an interesting thought exercise to consider what that's going to look like. I mean, obviously it kind of predicates on whether Giannis asks out of Milwaukee or not, but there is kind of this, argument. It's like, hey, listen, man, if we can get Giannis, now we got a star. We do have some pieces, some of our younger core that do have potential to continue to grow and develop in an Amen Thompson or a Şengün and that kind of thing. But it's, we do need kind of that star, from the Rockets' perspective. So, it sounds like they have the ability to do that. Do they want to swing for the fences and really go for that star, or do they want to try to continue and just develop this core, maybe moving off of Green and trying to get someone else in return? You know what I mean? Because there's a clear limitation and clear ceiling to this team, to their ability to become kind of like a two-headed monster in the sense on both the offensive or both the defensive end and the offensive end. They can hang their hat on the defensive end, but we saw how far that goes, and that doesn't really go super far, unfortunately. Just the main thing is that they just don't have a star player. That's really kind of what it comes down to. So we'll see how that goes. I'm interested in kind of, I'm not obviously like super invested in that Rockets team, but I am keeping an eye on them. Listen, they pushed the Warriors to 7. I feel the Warriors kind of let the gas off in games 5 and 6. Obviously 5 was the blowout game, but game 6, it was something that I think was to their detriment in not taking care of business in the earlier games. But it is what it is. They won in game 7, and I was very happy. And it's a very short period of celebration because like tomorrow, round 2 starts in which they have to play the Minnesota Timberwolves. So really like insanely quick turnaround. So that's like the thing. That's like the thing that I was a little hung up on in the first series, right? Like if they were able to take care of business earlier, then that would allow for far more rest, at least a few days of rest, which is better than one. You know what I mean? In like less than 48 hours or so, they're playing, the Timberwolves, and that's going to be an interesting series. I will get into that in a little bit before I talk about some of the other games this weekend. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough. Game 1, I think, is going to be tough. If they can manage to win game 1, I will feel very good about it. Like that would make me feel very confident. If they can kind of essentially steal game 1, I think that would put the team in a really good position, right? Just immediately set the tone. I don't know how well that's going to go though, because the Wolves have had just almost a week of rest, so they're chilling. You know what I mean? But we'll see. I'm hoping that they can at least show out a little bit. You know what I mean? But I do feel like those tired legs are going to kind of show in game 1. So we'll see how that goes. On Sunday, and now I'm kind of working backwards a little bit. The earlier game, in which the round 2 games started, we had the Pacers and the Cavs. This one was really, I wasn't able to watch the full game, but I watched some good parts of it. Very well and evenly matched teams with both Indiana and Cleveland. And I kind of felt that going into this series. I do think the Cavs, I am favoring the Cavs here. I do think that they'll win this series in 6 games or so, but I don't think Indiana's going to be a pushover. They won game 1. They hit a lot of their shots. I mean, I think they were hitting their threes at a pretty ridiculous clip, but they were also guarding very well on the defensive end, which I think that was like one of the key criticisms, I think, of Indiana moving from, coming from last year and their playoff run, and I guess just in general for since kind of the Tyrese Halliburton kind of makeup of this team came to fruition, was the fact that their defense was subpar, and that they were, one of the best offenses in the league last year. But this season, closing out the regular season, they actually had, I think it was like over the course, I think since the All-Star break, from what I remember, they had the seventh best defense, which is pretty substantial, right? I think that's really impressive considering their tenure and, you know, the fact that they're not known as a defensively, focused or strong team. But you kind of saw some of the ways in which they were able to kind of scramble against Cleveland. I think they have some awesome kind of like point of attack defenders, and Neesmith and Nemhard. Like Nemhard is always like, dude, when I see him play, I'm like, I don't you don't envision this dude to be like a guy, but he's good, man. He's really good. Like, he's kicked our ass, like the Warriors during like the regular season over the last couple of years. And we saw what he was able to do in the run last year. He had some huge shots. He had that one, I forgot if it was a game-winning three or game-tying three against the Knicks. But he's a great defensive player as well. So it's a really, just like the combination of that, and obviously, Tyrese's playmaking on the other end. Like they have a pretty formidable team, you know what I mean? Like they just have, and I mentioned this during the Bucks series as well, but they just have a super deep bench. They go 8, 9, 10 deep, right? Like they just have solid, role contributor after solid role contributor that can kind of slot in when maybe some other player isn't, doing as well. And it's just a super impressive roster. They're fun to watch. Like I enjoyed watching them, when they were when they were known as sort of the high-powered offensive team, which they still are, right? And the pace that they play with is incredibly high. But I do think that you can kind of see them like really developing into kind of a really strong just team overall. And I think it's going to be, I do think the Cavs, and also on the Cavaliers side, Garland was out in game 1. He had this toe injury, which has been kind of bothering him, which kind of kept him out of the first round series against Miami. But I think it's not going to be I do think Cleveland is going to round it out. They just have the higher, like, I think their 4 best players can really elevate their games to a certain point. And that I think that just the high end players, I think, are going to be able to sort of overcome what Indiana has, I believe, right? But I don't think it's not going to be easy. I mean, we got ourselves a series, right? Indiana won game 1, and now it's now people are like panicking. I don't think it's worth panicking for if you're like in Cleveland's shoes. I just think it's more like, damn, this team is really good, and they really gotta. Now Cleveland has really gotta bring it. You know what I mean? The Pacers are not going to be a pushover. Obviously, they're probably not going to hit at the same clip. I think it's like 60% on threes or something crazy like that. They're probably, they're most likely not going to hit it at that clip again, but still, it's not going to be easy. So I still pick the Cavs in 6, but Pacers are good. You know what I mean? Pacers are going to be... I think this is going to be a really fun series. I wouldn't be surprised if this goes to 7. And I kind of hope it does. But I'll say Cavs in 6 for now. The other Game 7 game on Saturday was the Nuggets-Clippers. And we got it's just so, it is just like, it's almost by design. It's got this kind of rhythm to it where no matter what, no matter how much faith people have in this Clippers team and how good they look, both, eye test wise and on paper. Well, obviously you go on paper and eye test wise. It just feels like the Clippers just do this every single season where they just are the letdown, the annual letdown. And we saw that with Harden having a stinker of a game, and I didn't watch the game all the way through. I only watched like the first half because I had some because I was a little busy later at night. But watching some of the highlights, and I remember just checking the score, and it was like 81-54. I'm like, what happened? You know what I mean? And I rewatched some of the highlights. It was really the third quarter where things just completely fell apart, and I don't know. It's just the Nuggets. It kind of just came down to effort. I feel like the Nuggets were just playing harder. They had second chance points. The Clippers were just missing rotations, and the Nuggets were hitting open shots, and it was just not good. Just bad execution by the Clippers, and you get a disappointing. And it's funny because like I feel going into this season, the Clippers, I didn't have high expectations from them after the Paul George trade and everything. Or was he traded, or did he leave on free agency? I forgot. But no, it was a trade, right? Who did they get? I don't remember. But anyways, Paul George leaving, and I was like, all right, this is probably the end of this era of the Clippers, the Kawhi, obviously Paul George Clippers. And then they had this kind of resurgence, and at the end of the season, they were looking like one of the best teams in the league. Again, kind of similar to, like, was it last year? Was either last year or a couple of years ago where they were like, they had like the number one net rating from the end of, from All-Star break till the end of the season or something along those lines. And they tricked us. They tricked you once again. I wasn't tricked. I didn't like this Clippers team. I was pissed when the Warriors lost, kept losing to them. Really mainly because of Zubats. I mean, the game that they had, the very last game of the regular season when they played them at home, which determined playoff positioning and playing standing and all that stuff. They did look really good. Kawhi looked awesome, and James Harden also looked awesome. So those two really clicked in that game specifically, right? But I just was like, man, we really can't beat this team. You know what I mean? And it might just be an issue of matchup. We just don't match up well against this team. And I think it is very much a case of, just looking at through a Warriors lens. It just might be a case where the Clippers are more, they just have a better matchup against the Warriors specifically. But, and in regard, like, look, they played against Jokic. They played against one of the best players in the world. Like, and you played a 7-game series, so it's hard to make comparisons with the sample sizes of a 7-game series versus a regular game, series matchup. Like, it would be completely different, right? If the Warriors somehow faced off against the Clippers, I think it would be different than what it was in the regular season, right? We've seen that just every single time that's happened. Like, the regular season matchup does not really dictate what the playoff series are going to look like. Like, we've just kept seeing example after example of that. So it would be kind of hard to determine, right? But still, even then, I was just like, dude, it's the Clippers. I just, like, historically, and I know these are different teams with different coaches, but that still kind of lingers. Like, that's still, that scent from prior series and seasons, that kind of lingers, you know what I mean? And until they can kind of shake it off and get to the finals or something, right? They have yet to prove, I think, anyone wrong that this team and this franchise just don't have, they just haven't got it. They just haven't got it yet. They've had incredible players come through. And I don't exactly know what it is. I think it might just be down to, like, bad luck. Because, like, look, they made a lot of good decisions. Like, there was no, you can't really put too much blame in the front office because this essentially worked out better than really anybody anticipated. They were, they made it into the playoffs, just without really any expectations this season. Kawhi, when he was healthy, looked really good. And they have, like, a good, coaching staff. Apparently, based on what everybody says, is like best coaching staff in the league or whatever, which, I don't know if I can't vouch for that. I don't know. So I'm just taking it by ear. But it's like, regardless, it's so, like, you can't really blame too much of that. Like, it just kind of comes down to the on-court product, which didn't translate to winning the series. In the most important game of the season, they fell apart once again. Same with James Harden, right? So I don't know. And there's a lot of talk about, James Harden kind of legacy and all that, and it's something that has been kind of in the back of my mind. And I don't know, it's not something that I've really ever looked deeply into because I was never like, yeah, James Harden, one of my favorite players. No, I never was a fan of him. But just kind of hearing, discussions about him, he has historically, similar to the Clippers, has been, has failed to essentially perform when needed in the most high leveraged situations, right? He just fails to do that for some reason, and I don't know what exactly it is. I don't know, it's just something that he just is not able to overcome, and that's just has been historically the case. We saw that when, he was with Houston playing against the Warriors, like, they couldn't close out. When he was with the Sixers, that, they were up 3-2 against the Celtics and they almost won, but they just completely botched the end of Game 6 and then got blown out in Game 7 where he played like ass. And then, you got this series against the Nuggets, and he plays well enough, but it's just when they need him to be one of their better players, he just is not able to do so for some reason. I don't know what it is. Like, does he, do you just, like, expend too much energy in, the prior games so that when you get to Game 7, it's like, okay, I just don't have any more left in the tank, right? Is that just what it comes down to? Like, I mean, that would make some sense, but I don't know. Maybe he just doesn't have whatever this theoretical second gear to elevate his game to being like a playoff riser / overcomer, and he just hasn't shown that really ever, which is I don't know. That's gotta suck a little bit. I do feel bad for him, but he just has not proven that he can do that. And I don't know what the future for him is going to look like. He's still going to be with the Clippers, but I think the opportunity for him to like be a part of like a championship level team, I think is kind of, unless he does, unless there's like an opportunity for him to take a vet minimum and, join another team on a smaller contract, that kind of thing. Similar to kind of how like Westbrook is doing with the Nuggets. Like, I just don't know what the future for him looks like, right? He's probably just going to be with the Clippers until his contract is over. I don't know what the exact timing for that is, but it's he's, look, like, just numbers wise, he's had some crazy games. You got an MVP in 2018, right? Or was it 2017? I don't remember. Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting looking back on his career, right? I mean, amongst all of like kind of that generation, like the 2010 generation of stars, including Steph, you could put Westbrook in there as well, like that kind of era, KD, just all of these careers and how they've gone is so fascinating. Really, I guess like the core of that Thunder team, and how they kind of all went to become, just incredible players and all MVPs, but all just, I guess outside of KD, Westbrook and Harden not reaching the mountaintop. Yeah, I mean, obviously we'll see, like with the Nuggets, I just don't know how well they're going to do against the Thunder, who they're also, I think they're playing tonight as well, right? Thunder Nuggets are going to be playing tonight. Yeah, anyways, just a kind of a ramble there, but yeah, so the Clippers out tonight. The Nuggets play against the Thunder. I don't know how that's gonna go. It's a little hard to try to take away a lot from their series against Memphis. It feels like Shea, just based on what I remember watching, like he's just not playing. He's like playing at like 80%. You know what I mean? He's just not. He's not taking like a ton of great shots from what I remember. He's just not making them at the same efficiency. We'll see how that goes, right? And it's going to be fun to watch that matchup. Not exactly a head-to-head, but, SGA and Jokic, I think that's going to be really fun. But the rest of that Thunder team is just insane. I don't know how the Nuggets are going to go up against that. Because it's like the Clippers, there was the argument, and honestly the belief that I had that they were the deeper team, which, look, on paper they were. They had far more, wings and a lot more bodies that they could throw against, like Jamal Murray and stuff, but that didn't really work out. So it's like the Thunder are the Clippers, but just on another level. Their defensive, like their defensive-minded players of a Lou Dort, Cason Wallace, Alex Caruso, Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Hartenstein. It just Jalen Williams. Like, they just have, and Shea too. He's not even their best defensive player. But just like up and down the roster, like everybody is like a plus defender, which is crazy, man. Like, when do you get that? Like, when do you ever have that? You know what I mean? And Caruso comes off the bench, dude. Like, that's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. I don't know if I have that much faith in Denver this time. And also, hey, I was right about the Denver in 7 prediction for that matchup, so I'm kind of proud of that. Because I heard a lot of people were taking the Clippers, but yeah, that's like the one prediction I got right. Obviously, Warriors won, but I said Warriors in 6. I was completely wrong about the Wolves and Lakers, and I don't remember the rest of the series. But yeah, I think this Thunder team is so good, man. I feel they're kind of a lock, and maybe it's a little premature. And who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Jokic just is like, no, I'm that guy. Like he's never gonna say that, but through his play, he's gonna say that I'm that guy and I'm the MVP. Like this could be like a whole thing of, oh, Jokic should have been the MVP. Look at the numbers he's putting up. Look at the fact that he's able to drag this team. If Jokic is able to win against this Thunder team, that's gonna put him. I feel like that should put him up there, man. Like that would be an incredible feat for him to be able to do that. And then there's going to be all this discussion about whether it's just like, no, Jokic should have gotten the MVP and all that, but whatever. I still think the Thunder are too good of a team, and I don't know if it's going to be. I'll say I respect Jokic is that good, and the Nuggets have been clicking too. Like they've looked decent over the last, kind of last stretch. I'll say Thunder in 6 for that matchup. And before I get to the Warriors and Wolves, Knicks Celtics are playing right now. I'm not. I'll check the score a little bit. I just I don't know. I think. I just don't know how much of a chance New York is really going to stand. I was watching a little bit of this game today, like the first quarter. Boston wasn't even playing that good, and they were still up by like 5 or 6 points. Like they were missing open shots. So it's like if things get clicking, I don't know, man. I think it's going to be. I think Boston's going to win in either 5 or 6. I think that's going to be my take. I'm not going to put a number on it because there might be some games where Boston maybe slips a little bit, but I think it's going to be Boston in 5 or 6. They'll probably dominate 1 or 2 games, and that's going to be enough. All right, let's get to Wolves. Warriors. I don't want to put a prediction on this. Because, like, of course I want my Warriors to win. But like the title of last episode, I keep doubting the Wolves, and they keep proving me wrong, and I just cannot. I'm not gonna make that mistake. They have this ability to kind of turn it up. At least the last couple of seasons, they've just shown that they can turn it up during the playoffs and when things matter. Ant has shown that he can continue to grow. These are things that I've talked about, and I don't know. I think it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for the Warriors. I think Steph will be. I think he'll do better this series than against Houston. I think he would. I think he's shown to play better against Minnesota defenders than Houston. I mean, just Amen was just like such a tough. He was just such a tough cover with Steph that I don't know if there's really anybody like Jaden McDaniels is really good, but I think he's much more of someone that can like he works well against players like Luka because of their speed, but with someone like Steph who darts around the court, I don't know, on just off ball action and stuff. I don't know if it's going to be. I think Steph will play a little better against against the Wolves, but I just don't know how well the others are going to match. Because they got size, the Wolves got size, and they got a deep bench, and they got players that can score off the bench. They got DiVincenzo, Naz Reid, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Like they just got some really good bench players that can kind of shift in and out. There's I think I don't know, like with Gobert and stuff, I think there is like a way to be able to play them effectively by putting him in action and stuff. I think Steph can do a better job against someone like Gobert compared to Luka. But like if that doesn't work, they have other pieces that they can go small ball too, as we saw against the Lakers with like Naz Reid at the 5 instead of Gobert, and that worked out for I think games 3 and 4. So they could do something like that if they really wanted to, and I don't know how well I don't know how well they're going to defend against that. It's going to be tough, man. And Randall's going to be tough too. I don't know. I guess you could put Draymond on him, and I think I think Draymond will do a good job. But who's going to cover Ant? I do remember like GP2 did a pretty good job against Ant during the regular season, but again, this is the playoffs, and also GP2 I think he's out, and he's also hasn't played particularly well over the last couple of games. He had that one game earlier in the Rocket series where he scored like 16 or so, and he was a large contributor to why they won, but I just don't know. He like the way he's going to have to be effective is just really playing like insanely strong defense against Ant, which I think he can, but they got other pieces too. I don't know, man. Naz Reid kills us. Like it's just tough, man. I don't know. I just don't want to put anything out there. I really don't. Which seems kind of a coward's way out, but I don't want to do it. So I want the Warriors to win, of course. But it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy, which I think I also said about the Rockets, but I felt a lot more confident about playing against this Rockets team. Obviously, like going into Game 7, I wasn't feeling good. I was like, oh shit, we're gonna do this again. We're gonna blow another 3-1 lead. But I never, like, I think it would have been incredibly disappointing if the Warriors lost against the Rockets. I don't think it would be as disappointing if they lost against this Wolves team, right? I just think they have really good players, and they got Anthony Edwards, who's been awesome these last couple of seasons. They have a guy, they have that guy. So, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be tough, but we'll see how it goes. I don't know. I feel like Game 1 I'm a little worried about Game 1. If the Warriors can somehow take Game 1, I will be feeling really good. I'll be feeling really good about this series. So I just want to put that out there. But yeah, anyways, just wanted to do a quick weekend recap of the things that have been going on. Also, a quick little side. I recently picked up I just ordered a basketball from Amazon, and just started. I just went for a quick shoot around, just by myself, but it felt good. Like I hadn't touched and really played basketball in a long time, and considering like I'm someone, I mean, I consume so much just basketball stuff, but I really have missed playing the actual game, you know what I mean? And maybe there's some pickup runs that I can find myself. For the most part, I just kind of want to get back into shooting and trying to get that get my body right for that kind of thing. And it's just fun, it's just fun to do like a quick sesh here and there. So I'll probably be doing that over the course of the summer and stuff. So that's fun. I just kind of wanted to to mention that as someone who is just who's been very in deep on talking about the NBA. But let's just actually hoop and see what it's about too. Also, quick update on some gaming stuff. Just slowly, slowly making my way through Xenoblade X. And then just some other gaming news stuff. So Expedition 33, which came out I think on Xbox and then on PC, looks awesome, and it's gotten a lot of great reviews. Which and it's it's just like a traditional kind of like turn-based combat game, which is awesome. I want to play that. I just don't. And it's one of those things like, hey, maybe that's a good argument to get like a PC, you know what I mean? But yeah, that looks really good, and I'm happy that it looks like it's selling really well, and it's really successful, and it's resonating with a lot of players, and it's considered one of the best games to come out this year so far, right? So I'm really happy to see that. I'm happy to see that type of game having some success. And I hope I do want to play it. I hope that I can play it someday. I think I will. If they do I don't know. I know Switch 2 stuff is it's kind of a sore point right now. If it comes to Switch 2, I'll pick it up and play it. But if not, then I'll see. I'll try to find another way to get my hands on it, because it looks really good, and I would like to play it. Anyways, that's going to do it for today's episode. I will be back either tomorrow or Wednesday to talk about the Warriors-Wolves game, and obviously the other matchups as well. Now that we're, in the second round, we got less games. There's only 4 games going on, or, 4 series going on, so not as much to kind of delve into. I mean, that's kind of the excitement of, the first round, right? It's just there's so many games going on, but as things kind of start to slow down, as the tournament kind of narrows down to a few teams, is when it kind of maybe there's less to talk about, because there's less games going on. But there's obviously other things going on as well, with off season and some other teams. And then you got the draft after the final. So there's obviously a lot of other stuff, but maybe I'll take some time to get into some other things as well outside of basketball. But yeah, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks for listening as always. This has been Save the Semantics, signing off.